Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today from McFarlane Toys, we are featuring Borderlands Lilith. Alright, so this figure is actually a couple of years old. It came out way back in 2019, so it's about 4 years old already. I'm a big fan of Borderlands, especially the first two games. The first game came out back in, I think, 2009, and I remember during that time period it seems like we were getting a whole bunch of like a post-apocalyptic themed video games. For example, I think roughly around that same time period we got Fallout from Bethesda, and then I think we got Rage from id Software and Borderlands. And I loved Borderlands. I immediately got into Borderlands after I finished Fallout, and I kind of felt like the games kind of went hand in hand with each other. Even though Fallout was much more had much more RPG elements, Borderlands was more about looting and always upgrading your weapons. And I had such a fun time, and I still fire up Borderlands 2 to this day. And not too long ago, I picked up Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and I'm hoping to get some time in to play that also. Alright, so we have one of the original Vault Hunters here. We have Lilith. She's a Siren class character. Beautiful looking figure, as you can see here. So I'm unsure of the scale of this action figure line. I'm not sure if it's a 7-inch scale action figure, just because I think around this time period McFarlane was also making I think Call of Duty action figures. And even though the design engineering is very much the same as like some of the more modern McFarlane figures like the DC Multiverse line and like The Witcher and some of those other, action figure lines, the scale is slightly different. For example, here's a McFarlane designed Batman from Multiverse. It's kind of like a 1/10 scale action figure, and this figure is a little bit on the larger side for a 7-inch scale action figure. And if you look at it, it like towers over Lilith completely. So, but nonetheless, great looking action figure. The package design's also well done. If you've been collecting any of McFarlane's video game themed characters from this time period, the package design is very similar to like what you got with their Call of Duty action figures. Slightly smaller than the Gears of War stuff, but pretty cool. On the back, some nice figure photography, and let's get started and take her out. Alright, so what prompted me to get this figure in 2023, even though it's 4 years old? No reason really. I remember seeing the Borderland figures at Target all the time, and I kept on telling myself I was going to buy them until it got to the point that they were no longer there. I want to say some of my Targets might have had some leftover figures on their shelves as recently as maybe 6 or 9 months ago. So, alright, so we have Lilith. Beautiful looking action figure as always from McFarlane. The sculpting is really well done. This really brings to life the video game character. I kind of feel like that with their Borderlands line of action figures, they should have provided more than just a single weapon. Because if you've played the game, the game's really about just constantly upgrading your firearms. And in this case here, the figure line was so limited as it was. It would have been nice if they gave each figure at least 3 different firearms, maybe like an assault rifle, a pistol, and maybe some other weapon. But it's cool nonetheless. And let's take her out. Alright, let's take a look at her her gun first. Now, I couldn't tell you exactly which specific model of weapon this was. If you've played the game, there's like an infinite amount of weaponry in any of the loot crates. Very sci-fi in its design. Really dig the color scheme. Kind of has that like graphic corporate look to it. And as for Lilith herself, a nicely sculpted figure. She's very pale, but that's how the video game model was. Very almost like porcelain doll-like, you know, in her presentation, both in terms of her facial expression and, you know, the complexion of her skin. You know, there's a slight hint of pink and blush on her cheeks. There's some tattoos that you could kind of faintly see on her skin. You know, if you wanted a figure for your DC collection and try to pass this off as a cyberpunk version of Joker's daughter, go for it. You know, you won't get any objections from me. Yeah, really well done. It really brings the video game model to life. You know, I kind of felt like the line was very limited. You know, there weren't too many characters as there could have been. I don't recall if they eventually got around to releasing, you know, all the Vault Hunters, or the different variations on Claptrap. But it was just cool to get figures nonetheless. You know, it's a very popular video game property and still is. And it'd be cool if they actually give us figures from, you know, Tiny Tina's Wonderland. But I don't know if they still have the license to produce Borderland figures. But, you know, this is a great figure. It's very much on par with what you expect, you know, from the other McFarlane lines. The articulation, head rotates, arms move. They go out. Single pinned elbow, so it's a little bit dated there. Articulated wrists. Cut beneath the breast line so she can move like this. Swivel at the waist. Mine's a little bit stuck, but it does appear that there's a cut there. The legs do move, but they're kind of hindered by the fabric here. Single pinned knee with a swivel. And articulated ankles. Yeah, so the articulation, it's a little bit more dated. It's not up to date with like a modern McFarlane figure. But in terms of the sculpting and overall presentation and paint application, it's just as good as any. And in some ways, I'd say the paint application is actually better than like a multiverse figure. You know, it kind of like, it's very reminiscent of like the early 90s or late 90s, early 2000s with the kind of like the washes and the dry brushing effects. But fantastic figure overall, and I think it's a cool figure. I mean, I kind of want to hunt down the other figures, but you know, at this point I feel like I'm a little bit late to the party, and I think I'd probably want to put my money elsewhere right now. And to be honest, it's kind of hard to get this gun into the hand. You might have to like heat up the hand just to like loosen up the fingers and pry them apart just so you can fit them into that little slot and around the handle. All right, so let's wrap this one up. But real quick, is this worth the purchase? It depends. If you're a fan of the Borderlands video game and if you're like me and you passed up on these figures, I think if you can find them for a reduced price, it's worth the purchase. If you're not into the video game, it might be something you might want to look into if you collect McFarlane's Cyberpunk line. It might be a little bit shorter, but I think this character would fit in that aesthetic. Definitely maybe too small for the McFarlane Multiverse line. But, you know, like I said, if you want to try passing it off as Joker's daughter, go for it. All right, so let's wrap this one up. Once again, my name is Lou. If you're new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. I greatly appreciate it. So until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I'll see you at the next one. All right, later.